That wasn't nice.
Huh?
Wasn't nice.
Lamb salt. Okay. Ma'am, did you get some good questions? No? That was your tryout. We need help. There's application stop sign. Folks, I'm going to give you some advice here, actually several pieces of advice. First and most important piece of advice, do not take your rock home and put it on Mama's good furniture. Salt absorbs moisture and it will ruin Mama's good furniture and her attitude. Secondly, do not put your rock in the yard, in the grass, flower garden, anything like that. When the rain comes, the salt will start to disappear, and so will the flowers, and nothing will ever grow there again. Last piece of advice, if you have fish at home and you like them, do not put your salt in the aquarium. You'll have floaters. All right, now that you're afraid of your salt, I'm going to give you some, just a second. I've been hearing that and I've been wondering. No wonder. That'll be better.
Oh, okay.
So if you got a big piece of salt, you can take it home. You can run it under the faucet very quickly, pat it dry. By the way, that'll shine it up nice. Pat it dry. Let it dry overnight. Then take some clear acrylic spray and put a thin layer of spray on that rock. That'll help seal it. Then you might get away with putting it on the furniture. Even at that, I'd probably put it on a glass plate. I have a Mama too. Second tip, if you got smaller pieces of salt, like in a pouch, you can take that salt. A lot of folks will choose to exhibit it within a clear vase, and that's a good way of doing it. We're going to go back to the 50s one more time. During that time, there was an attorney that was looking for some place to store records. Then he remembered his experience in Europe during World War II. He had been part of an army unit that had been dubbed the Monuments Men. A few years ago, there was a movie made with the same title. It's an excellent movie. It's historically accurate. It stars George Clooney, John Goodman, and Matt Damon. The purpose of the Monuments Men was to locate and recover Hitler's stolen art stored in the salt mines of Europe. So when the attorney remembered this, he contacted Mr. Carey, the president of the salt company at that time. He was able to obtain a 100-year lease, and in 1959, he opened underground vaults and storage. Since that time, they become world known. All 50 states store here, as well as 23 different countries. If you've ever had a traffic violation, it's probably down here. Rumor has it they've now opened the Morris wing in honor of all my kids' violations. That's not fun. They're most famous for their storage of fine frame films. Many major motion picture companies store here. Our most famous films include The Wizard of Oz, Gone with the Wind, and the Star Wars movie. TV series include Gunsmoke, Johnny Carson, and Friends. My favorite artifact in the UPS exhibit is what we call the Lincoln paper. This is a newspaper printed in 1865, the day after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. It's very cool. As we pass the pillar on the right, you're going to see a whiteboard, and you'll be able to see into our event center. Our event center can be leased out for all sorts of events, such as parties, workshops, in-services, business lunches, family rebellions. We've even had weddings down here. Yes, weddings. The biggest problem that we have with weddings is when a bride or a groom get cold feet. They have 150 miles of tunnels to hide out in. If you look at the whiteboard, you'll see on August 19th, we're hosting a Murder in the Mind Mystery Dinner Theater. This one's called Clueless. These are a lot of fun. We do them about 4 times a year. We have actors from Chicago that write them and come and perform them here. It's very interactive. You may even become part of the cast. Hopefully, you're not the one that's murdered. You can buy tickets topside. You must be 18 years of age or older, as it does contain adult humor and they serve liquor. And there's plenty of both. As we go around the corner here, we're heading back to the galleries in the gift shop area. You are now survivors of the dark ride. I said, survivors of the dark ride.
Ooh.
Well, I'm glad you survived. We're very happy you joined us here at Strytica today. We hope the time has been a good one. One of the ways that we can find out is you can write a review on Google or TripAdvisor. Now, you can make a comment about me. If it's a positive comment, my name is Carrie. If it's a negative comment, I'm Sam. Thanks for coming home. Hope you had a great time. God bless. When we come to a stop, you can leave from the left.
Once you get done with the train, you're going to come right around over here for the dark zone.
还不要挑什么纪念品呢？
不用了，刚才已经有了。
自己挑，自己拿的。
总之要拿大块一点的。
哦，是哦。要那么大块干嘛？
放在你床头。
我床头已经有一个很大了哦。我不是有一颗大。
那个是我的，不是你。
哦，我这次有拿一块小的。
甜。
哦，对哦。
也是怕不怕？
嗯，有可能哦。哎，我们在这边照一张。
幾難真嘅字呢邊？以為通常啲字全北邊嘅，睇佢係字，你唔知佢有個方面嘅字，因為覆區數就搞笑。
看吧。
Urban hiking. So
sometimes if you go hiking, you'll see little stacks of rocks. They're called cairns or nookshuks as trail markers. We have some of those things out here too. We've got little stacks of rocks. Let us know where to make turns, basically. So I got my little tricks to find my way around too. But the big thing is that they don't allow us to go out unless we really know the route.
我帮你想要买一个大块的。
哦，
Not
不
sure
要
we
啦
know，that
那
we
那
went
么大
somewhere we weren't supposed to, right?
你要我抱个大块，然后搬上去的。
You're all can head back and grab a seat when you're ready, and we'll.
你要我拿大块的吗？
不用。
Congratulations, you just uncovered some of these trash from about 70 years ago. This is all salt they couldn't sell back in the day, so they just left it down here for us to collect food. Dig it through the trash. Alright. And away we go. If you do go out in your dark ride, you'll be given the same instructions, but to take care of your salt rock or rocks, when you get home, you can take your salt rock and rinse it quickly with water, knocking loose certain dust from it. Key word is quickly. Salt is water soluble. Leave it to dry for over a day on a paper towel or old rag you so choose. Then, if you would like to, you can seal your rock with clear enamel spray. To seal it, give some shine. You don't have to, though. If you display your salt rock on any wood, leather, or metal, make sure it does not touch the surfaces directly because salt will ruin that furniture. So display your salt rock on a plate or a mirror. As long as it won't touch wood, leather, or metal directly for a long time, you should be okay. If you have a neighbor you don't like, put your salt rock in their flower garden. They'll kill the plants and the grass around it. If you don't like your fish, put your salt rock in your fish tank. Kill all your fish too. To our left here is a loading ramp that they could drive up on with their machinery full of salt. Their shuttle carts out in the gallery. They would dump their salt into a hop, which is in the pit in front of it. That hop had a conveyor belt to load up ore cars, which are sitting the rails across and over right now. We've also got a second track, that way that miners could bypass. If there's miners kind of stuck here loading up ore cars, they could get by pretty quickly. This is a hub of activity for the time. Beyond the pillar to our left was the restroom. We're not going that way. We're going to the break room to our right. So see, here's my little stack of rocks as a guide, right? I know I'm going the right way. No stack of rocks. And at the break room, you get more artifacts or mining trash. There is a half-eaten sandwich in its wax paper right there. I would dare you to lick it, but I don't think I should.
I want to know why there's no smells here.
Why there's no smells, as far as like related to the trash, basically. So a lot of that is that your senses are overwhelmed by the smell of salt. That and they wouldn't bring stuff down here that would really, you know, kick up a smell. And it's also just gets buried in salt over the years with dust, so it preserves it and it doesn't really stink. There's also, generally there's no trapped gases or anything else that could smell down here. It's all salt. But for the big thing is that your nose right now is just, it's inundated with salt right now. So that's all you can smell anyway. Now there is also, there's only one glass jar out here, and it's a Welch's grape juice jar. Right here. Now, on the rock somewhere out there too is a pamphlet for the Reno County Community Chest. They put this little pamphlet in with the miner's paycheck to kind of encourage them to donate to some local organizations. One charity was for the Penny Ice Fund. This is before you had refrigerators. You had an ice box at home to keep your food cool. So you would buy ice from a factory and they would deliver it to you. Miners could donate or recycle their glass bottles to donate to the Penny Ice Fund here. Just so happens Emerson Carey, who owned this mine, also owned an ice factory. We got a little bit of kickback from minor generosity there too. All right, so throughout the trip, I said we were headed west, north, south, east. We made lots of turns out here, so when it comes to a stop, you got a 1 in 4 shot getting the right answer of what direction we're going. So, any idea? Pretty hard, right? Well, you can't keep track of directions, neither could the miners, because right above us here on the ceiling is a compass rose. So there you go. You could have cheated when I asked that question. You could also remember too that the boot holes in the ceiling, they all line up. These are all east-west, so you would have known that we were going east or west, depending on the holes up there. So let's talk about the stacks of rocks a second ago as little trail markers on the salt pile. At one point, there was a newbie miner underground, a new miner. He used the rocks just to show him where he was going and painted arrows to some of them. Other miners, being a bit ornery, moved the rocks. That miner got lost for an hour on the big LHD bucket loader until I put the rocks back and showed him the way home. But pretty ornery. We're back near our entrance. We're passing through the stretch tractors, the extra long pillars. Beyond the curtain up ahead is the train ride. Got your lights on, be looking around, observing the area, and also take a big whiff of the air. You're going to smell something different. Smells like soot or smoke, right? So to our left here is what remains of an oil-cooled electrical transformer, right? So the miners say they went home one night and this caught itself on fire. It burned all night long. They got back next day and it was all put out. Not for depositing all this soot everywhere. Now, there's a saying. If you see fire or smoke, stay low, stay alive. That's where the clean air is. If we look up ahead here, to our left, you can see along the stress tractor here, clean air at the bottom, smoke and soot at the top. So, you've got the plasticity of salt. Salt can bend. Pillars push down the floor, and the floor bends up around them, like sticking your thumb into a ball of clay. Actually, pillars like these, then, means extra big floor heaves. Like the one to our left. So, when miners blasted out here, that floor was at the same level that we are, but over the years, has bubbled up like that. 15 years ago, when the museum first opened, you could walk across it. Now you're lucky to crawl across it. Come back in 15 years' time, who knows where it'll be at that point. Floors will typically are hollow underneath them, because beneath us, a couple feet, is a layer of anhydrite. Anhydrite is a mineral that is not plastic, so it will not bend, but the salt above it can, making a big bubble like that in the floor. Kind of weird, the floor coming to the salt mine. Just one of those things. Passing by another trash pile here to our left, with some empty plastic cap boxes, disused light bulbs and wire. More of those blasting tags too. Concerningly, I've noticed beside these boxes labeled high explosives, there's a little colony of cigarette butts out here. But I don't know. They're all empty, of course, all these boxes. So, you know, a couple hours ago, you'd be interested in trash, paint on the ceiling, and holes in the wall, but it's all kind of interesting. And we're going to pass back through that curtain again, so our tour is basically at its end. But one last thing I can show you. One time I did that though, and I had some pretty terrible tinnitus from the night before. I'd gone out to a party basically, and well, so much for that nice quiet. Got the ringing in my ear going on. That guest depot is now to our left, just so you get some idea of where we are. Made a little U-turn, basically. You may have been noticing throughout your tour, though, the air's been changing. It's been kind of cooler, I think. It's been getting a bit colder, especially compared to where our museum's at. It's also a bit more humid out here. The floor, if you kind of look at it, is dark and muddy. In the wintertime, the floor out here is pitch white and dusty because what we're facing right now is the fresh air side of the East Main. Basically, fresh air entering the museum enters right here. Our summers around here are very, very humid. So eventually the humidity gets down here, that moisture in the air turns our floor a different color. Wintertime out here, it's really dry, so the floor becomes all dusty and white. Now, before the air touches our museum where all the artifacts are, or the underground vaults and storage area, it's pretty well dried out. The salt absorbs it pretty well. Now, big area out here. You need a lot of airflow to support your miners. What they wanted to do in October of '54, like you see this tag here, is connect a blast they made right here with one at the same time to our northwest, kind of to our northwest out here. To our northwest, about half a mile, is the production shaft where fresh air will then enter this area. Now, this is a pretty feat of engineering they had to accomplish here because you had no GPS, no digital mapping. You had a string on the ceiling, pen and paper, and a compass to connect these two blasts here that are about, say, 500 feet apart or so. So, let's see how well they did. Again, starting in October of '54. Blasting away. Now here in November '54, it's been a whole month. They made one of two 45-degree cuts right here, kept on blasting. Here's the second 45-degree cut. Now in January of '55, it's on the ceiling for some reason. We're going to drive by a crystal pod. Looks like a bony fish to our right. A little bony fish crystal pod there. You gotta be creative to see it. Now at February of '55, 2/1/55. Now, if the miners did their math correctly, the next blast after this one here will put them right back they were in October. See the rest of the miners on the other side of the wall here. So, let's see what they did. You might be able to see kind of a drill hole going this direction. Looking off to the right, there's also a drill hole going the other way. And if you look off to your left, kind of behind us here a little bit, they are exactly where they were in October of last year. Again, impressive. There's no digital mapping, no GPS. You got a string in the middle of the room and a compass is all you got. They did their job perfectly. This makes sure that the miners got airflow where they're working for a long time. Now, very faintly up ahead, you might be able to see what says 6/1/54. It's very, very faint. But this is a carbide tag. The miners just took off their carbide headlamp they had back in the day and burned the date into the salt. Shortly after June of '54 here, they got battery lamps and then started using paint. Red for a bit and for fun, orange. It's rare to see all three types of tags here in one spot because this happened over the course of a long time. We're going further back in time. You're going to see more carbide tags and paint tags, but they can be hard to spot because they do fade away over time. So a carbide light lasted for about 2 hours or so before it had to be refueled and relit. A battery lamp could then last for a whole day shift. Want to know how much light you got with the car by light? Turn off all your flashlights. It's just basically the brightness of my headlamp is all you would have. The air may have changed a little bit in this area. It's a bit stiller, a bit warmer, I think, too, a bit drier. So we were at the fresh air side. We're now at the exhaust air side. So air leaving the mine left through this corridor here. Back in the day, to our right or to our west is back to the production shaft where air enters and exhausts. And to our left is back to the little guest depot someone want to go where they started their tours. Now, this means then, we're in the exhaust air. If you farted sometime, we're now smelling it, so thanks for that. Right? It can be pretty stinky in here sometimes, I will say. Here at Stratica, you have 2 chances to grab a free piece of souvenir salt on your dark ride. You'll pick one up about the size of your fist. Now, here the rule of thumb is a little bit different. If you can pick it up and comfortably carry it in one hand, you're good to go. I'll give you a little sample rock, though. But to our right, please do not climb in the pile and stay in between the 2 pillars. If you go too far out, you got to find your own way out, all right? Next off to your right here, dig some salt if you so choose. Have some fun, dig some salt, right?
Oh, 这个没作用。你照了，你照不来。
If you really want to, you can pick a rock a little bit bigger than this if you really want to. Don't have to, obviously, but you're free to do so. Just ask that, unlike me, you don't climb in the piles. This will also be the last chance you got to ask me any questions. When we get back, you'll be handed off to somebody else, most likely. So if you've got questions for me, let me know.
Can you take a picture quick?
Sure can. It's dark. It's hard to take some, but I can try.
This is the final.
Apa?
This is like a map
Oh,
of
Zika.
America where we have to take a picture of each state.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
我的手电筒
Not cast a shadow.
，O 不 OK 啊？
3, 2, 1.
哎你啊，
黑色的，
黑色的
黑跟白都有了。
Yeah,
我在看，
Yeah.
我在想要
oh, perfect.
That came out almost exactly perfect.
Awesome. Yeah.
好像芝麻糖一样，
这可以当糖果吃吗？
应该可以吃。
好像是冰糖
Ore
啊，
car too, or
凉凉的。
there's the ore car by the train station. Yeah.
不抓一块大的，
Have you been on the train yet, though?
小小的。
Yeah, we have.
There's an ore car right by it, and if there's a member of staff there, we can certainly take one for you. Awesome.
Oh, 你找到粉红
Like I
色
say,
的。
out on your dark ride, you'll have a chance to pick one up about the size of your fist. But if you want something bigger, this is your chance to pick up something bigger if you really wanted to. But you can pick up small ones too, no big deal. I will say TSA does allow you to bring salt rocks on the planes. They'll just kind of look at you funny. It's the only thing. Especially if it's like a bag of powder.
我挑这个。
我这个有粉红色。
你在找钻石？
你这在找钻石，他说。
找到一个大的，发财了。哦，这颗大，不错不错。
I haven't.
太黑了，没办法照啊。
It's helpful that we've got kind of where we've been driving for many years. It's kind of obvious.
我来拍一张啊。
That's
To set off a series of blasts in sequence. This was dangerous. Later, they used the non-electric fuse and cap method of blasting, which, because the burning fuse was visible, was safer. After the holes are drilled, the powder man comes behind the driller and prepares the holes for blasting. Blasting caps and Deta primers are inserted into the holes. Then, an explosive shock tube is used to fill the holes with ammonium nitrate using an air compressor. The blasting caps are tied to one fuse, and their detonation is staggered. First, the central lower holes are blasted, then the middle and outer holes, and then the top area. Even with the delays, however, to blast one wall only takes about a second. Usually 5 walls are blasted each day. At 3:30, the end of the day's shift, everyone leaves the mine face, but the powder man and one other miner who remain behind to blast. The caps are set, giving them 4 minutes to get to safety, about 300 yards away. What took all day to undercut and drill is blasted away in less than 5 minutes. About 250 tons of rock salt is produced for every 40 feet of wall. Between 500 and 1,000 tons of salt come down every day, ready to be crushed and hauled topside.
爆炸性，啪嗒。
所以原來係爆嘅，唔係真係要係作嘅。啊，真係好耐以前啲人就作咯，咁跟住之後就爆片嘅已經係片爆。
那边蓝光是干嘛？哦，放炸弹的地方。这边灯光不错。哇，大怪兽哦！哇，看那轮胎的那么大。啊？
漏气了，
哈哈，还好啦。
哎，看以前的电线。
哇，这么粗！他以前是吃，以前他这个是吃汽油吗？如果吃汽油，那个引擎排放的那个废气，其实对工人是很有毒的哦。所以说，它这个机器是用电的，可能用电会比较 OK， 因为你如果用汽油，那引擎排放的那个废气会让客人中毒哦。对啊，因为这是地底下，你没有窗户通风啊，对不对？那所以说我在想，它这些机器会不会是用电呢？对啊。
这些车都是电。
啊，我是不知道啦，不然那么粗的电线是干嘛？
因为它要爆那个盐矿。
爆盐矿。
不过的确，它是插着电到这个机器里面的。
嗯。对啊，咔咔咔咔咔。
那边还有一个。
哦，换老婆按了，加。来，再来一部影片，看不完的影片。一大堆影片。换老婆按了，哎，我 我坐后面，你们坐前面。
Blasted off the face, it's crushed and then transported to the surface. This process has been changed at least 4 times during the history of this mine. The earliest years used the simplest technology. Crews worked in teams of 2, and they hand-loaded the cars, which were on track that had been laid all the way out to the face. It took about an hour to load one 3.5-ton car. Then the car was hauled by electric locomotive to the skip or hoist, where each individual car was turned in a rotary dump, which channeled the salt into the skip's 4-ton bucket to be hauled topside. Around 1940, the Kerry Salt Company bought a joy loader, partly in response to the shortening labor supply due to World War II. Instead of having to lay rails to the newly blasted mud, the joy loader brought the salt to the track. This loader had arms that swept up the salt off the mine floor and conveyed it into a trolley car. As soon as the trolley was filled, it transported the salt to the track and dumped it into the waiting cars to move it to the hoist. One or more loading stations could be in operation for months before the mine face moved far enough where the loading station had to move as well. This cut down labor. All hand loading stopped at this point, and workers either switched tasks or left the company. In 1950, the Kerry Company bought a Doty pig-type crusher and established an underground crushing station that reduced salt to about the size of a softball. Then it was conveyed to rail cars and hauled up the skip. In 1983, the mine abandoned the rail system altogether and began transporting the salt with a conveyor belt line. The joy loader and trolley cars have been replaced by load haul dump vehicles, or LHDs, which are fueled by soy diesel and can haul 6 cubic yards of salt in their front-loading buckets. They take the salt to the pig crusher, which reduces the rocks to 8-inch size before injecting them onto the belt. Then the salt travels over 2 miles to the skip, a trip that takes about 45 minutes. Near the shaft is another crusher, which breaks the salt into gravel-sized pieces. The salt is stockpiled into a hopper to control flow to the skip. Each bucket on the skip holds 4 tons of salt and operates continuously when not transporting people. The skip carries the salt 750 feet to the surface, where it's screened for medium and fine particles. The salt is carried on a conveyor to storage bins that hold the salt until it's transported to the fleet of rail cars to be distributed across the country. The fine, which takes the form of a soft powder, is treated in much the same way as the coarser salt. But before it's placed in a truck or rail car, it is kiln-dried in a rotary kiln at over 150 degrees Fahrenheit to remove all moisture and to reduce caking. Another way to reduce caking is to add chemicals such as stearic acid. The fine is not food grade, but is used in animal feed. In 1969, the Kerry Salt Company constructed a new storage shed. Salt harvested in the summer awaits winter demand in this shed. To maximize space, the shed follows the slope of the inclination angle, which is the angle that a pile of salt naturally forms. The building holds 100,000 tons of salt. As soon as the loose salt is loaded into the trucks and cars, it is transported to cities and companies all over the country to de-ice roads, mix in animal feed, cure hides, and other uses.
自动化了，所以就不需要这个老旧的salt mine。